Hey guys, Jonathan here, and in today's video, I took the 2021 Monger Mayhem set and actually scaled it down. Now, what I did here is I bought a second copy of the Monger Mayhem, and I combined it with the War Machine Mech, which is currently on store shelves as of the recording of this video. The idea is that the Ironmonger Mayhem from 2021, as cool as it is as a set on its own, is actually too big compared to the minifigures based on the scale we see in the movie. So scaling it down to mech size, which I've done here on the right, actually gets it to be a little bit closer to the scale we see in the movie, but of course that 2021 set had the mask, the giant arc reactor, and a lot of really great sticker pieces that translate really well into this smaller model. Now, one issue that both models run into, when we look at the original, if you push the arms down too far, you get this awkward space in the shoulders, so it really looks best when the arms are positioned here, so that these pieces on the side kind of help bridge the gap. We run into a similar issue on the mech-sized one, so if we lift the arms up just a little bit on both, it does help both models look as great as they can. So the way that I like to build mocks, guys, is basically dumping out 1 or 2 or 3 of a set and only using pieces from that. That way, if you guys have the Ironmonger Mayhem and you go to the store and buy another of the War Machine Mech, feasibly, you could build the same thing that I've built here, which again is something that I really like. That way we aren't gatekeeping any pieces and we all can build the same awesome Lego models. So with that being said, let me start showing you how I built the new one and breaking it down for you. So when I came up with the concept to do this, I was at the Lego store with my friends Mike and Steve, and we were walking around looking for something to build that night, and I kind of came across the War Machine Mech armor, which of course I already have, and I think it's probably my favorite Lego Marvel mech to date, but for some reason, I just got in my head, what if I could rebuild this into the Ironmonger? Then I started thinking, well, we got that Ironmonger set a couple years ago, so if I get another one of that and just dump out the pieces from the mech and the Monger, maybe I could combine them. So that's exactly what I did. So the entire idea around this new mock is centered around the mech. So when we lift the helmet up, you can see, just like the normal mech sets, we can fit a minifigure right in the center there as that opens up, so we can put the Obadiah Stane minifig in, close the cage, bring down these arms, and then bring down the entire mask. That way, when we go side to side, yes, there is just a little bit that you could see in there where you could see Obadiah Stane, but it is nowhere near as egregious as the old model where you can literally see, like, basically the entire minifig in there. So I was able to get it scaled down a lot better in that respect, but scaling it at this issue does come with its own challenges, especially when we can only use the pieces in these two sets. So let's start breaking that down. So because we're using that centerpiece for the mech, it does mean that everything basically needs to be scaled around Obadiah Stane fitting on the inside. So as I showed you, it closes up just like that, but then we've got to build this piece here that holds the mask in place and opens and closes just like we see in the movie, and also basically just like we see in the actual set. That means we've also got to put the arc reactor on the center here, and the arc reactor does overhang the rest of this a little bit, which is one kind of thing we have to keep in mind as we're building this. Then, of course, that shoulder armor was very tricky to figure out how to make work. You can see how I built the plates there with those little bar clips that use the droid arms to help these shoulder pieces move into place. Then we can kind of position the shoulders so that it all looks like one cohesive piece, which I quite like. Now, there are some things that I kept exactly the same. The hands, for example, spin and have the same finger build as the actual set, because I don't really think that there's any way to scale that up or down. And to be honest, it actually still works pretty well at this slightly smaller scale. The wrists area is mirrored on both sides and are basically the same, but one thing that we did have to lose were the weapons on the original. So you'll notice this one has kind of like a stud pusher on the left arm, and then on the right arm we have this stud shooter with the repeater where you twist this and it shoots the studs out. I'm not as big on play features when it comes to models like this, So to me, for my mock, it was totally fine to abandon those things and get rid of them, but as kind of a tribute to the way the suit works, I used this giant piping piece, which came from the original War Machine Mech, and that connects both arms and actually is pretty accurate to what we see in the movie as far as how the whole suit connects up on both sides. Now you'll see that I used several of the sticker pieces here, like on the back of the hips. We used them on the wrists here. Whereas on the original model, this sticker was on the thigh area. And then, of course, we used the same exact thing here for the shin, but they are in opposite directions just based off of how the smaller model needed to move. And one other thing you'll notice is that I kept the feet exactly the same on both. The construction, where you see the blue pin on the smaller one, is a little bit different because I did need to scale how the ankle fit in just a little bit differently, but the general build for the feet is exactly the same on both, which I think is kind of a cool Easter egg in its own right. One thing that is kind of annoying is just the way that it scales. This pipe piece does not fit into that receiver. It just barely sits in there. So if you move the feet around, you'll see that that pipe piece will move out just a little bit more. So let's talk about posability. Of course, we can move the shoulders and we can move the hands, but I did use the center joints here for the legs and the arms that are the fixed position, so the elbows and knees are not movable. We can also move the hips, so you could do like a running scene, and you can also stretch the legs out just a little bit and twist the feet out to give it a slightly more dynamic pose, but the leg posability is just a little bit limited. You can see that I used a lot of bricks in the knee area to make those legs look very dense because I didn't want it to look like Ironmonger skipped leg day. Overall, I am super, super happy with the way that this worked out. And I love this scaled down model. I love reimagining Lego sets like this using only pieces from a couple copies of a set because I love the idea that any of us could go to the store, get these sets, and build this ourselves. So I really like this, and of course the other thing to talk about is the scale, because we do have the Iron Man Mark III minifigure here, which crazy enough only came in this Ironmonger set, and when I look at these two side by side, they are just closer to scale. When we swap out for the 2021 model, it is just way too big for what we see in the movie. Ironmonger is supposed to be significantly bigger than Iron Man and menacing and all of that, but I do think that the mech mock that I made, mech mock, how about that? That sounds good. I do think that the mech mock here is closer to the scale we see in the movie, and of course, that is better in my book. So I'm excited to add this to my shelf, and we'll go ahead and wrap up this video right here. Alright guys, let me know what you think of this mock project. This was so much fun to put together, and I seriously had a great time doing so. I would love to do more models like this, so if there are any other LEGO Marvel sets you'd like to see rebuilt or rescaled, let me know down in the comments, and I'll try to make those happen. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. I'll see you on the next video, and until next time, build on.